So there's this article that was posted to r/games. The article is from like 3 months ago, so I don't know why it was just posted now, but I thought it was pretty interesting and got me thinking about some stuff. It's called "Video Games Have Replaced Music as the Most Important Aspect of Youth Culture" by Sean Monahan for The Guardian. I really don't agree with that title. I think that there's a lot of holes in that, but that are mostly just from, I guess, not understanding how people consume things like music compared to video games now, but that's entirely different, and it wasn't what the topic of this video was about, because I am a masochist, and I decided to go read the comments section to an article from The Guardian about video games. So naturally, there's a ton of people here who are being boomers, and you know, obviously, let's find a quick comment. So, for instance, Piper909 says, "Violent sexism and endless distraction, accomplishing exactly nothing except to waste time, does not speak well for the future." To which, Scholar Mel Rees replies, "They are utterly passive. They create nothing, achieve nothing, leave nothing. The achievements that their acolytes excitedly squeak about are non-existent. You didn't kill terrorists or slay dragons or find treasure. You didn't jump high or run fast. What you did is stare at a screen and wiggle your thumbs rapidly over and over again. Music, dance, etc. have the power to unite, to stir emotion in groups. Video games are a small, solipsistic, secretive pursuit that bring nothing of value." So this is a pretty silly comment, and people are obviously getting into some heated debates about, like, are games art or blah blah blah, and it becomes immediately clear the answer to anyone like me. I've played a few video games, you know, just a few, and I recognize the value of games, and it seems like ridiculous to me that you would say that games have no value in an artistic sense, depending on how you want to define art. So you see these people making these arguments, these boomers, although most of them are like probably more like Gen Xers, that games are useless, games are a waste of time. It's just shooting zombies. It's just shooting zombies. You're just sitting in your room. I'm sorry, British people. It'll be the French next week. And so for somebody on my side of the argument, the response is, well, you just don't understand games, right? You just don't understand. To which the response is, from anyone who's, like, you know, reasonable or mature, is to say, okay, so what am I not understanding? Explain it to me, Tycoon. And that's honestly really difficult to do. And not because there isn't an answer, but because there are so many different answers. It's like asking, why watch a movie? Why read a book? Why listen to music? And here's our linchpin for my shower thought. The answer for you know, most people would give is, you watch a movie, you read a book, you watch a TV series to absorb a story, to appreciate the cinematography, characters, and a narrative. And all of those things are things that, like, games don't necessarily need, or at least they don't need in the same way. And so the perfect analogy to games is actually music. So think about this. Music does not need to tell. Everyone agrees that music is an art form, or that music is valuable, or whatever. Most everyone sees the purpose in enjoying music. Well, think about, music is pretty music is enjoyed pretty differently from movies or books or theater, for that matter. Music doesn't need to have a cohesive narrative that's, you know, in the same way that like a movie does. Some songs are just about feelings or emotions or very tiny little kind of like fleeting imagery that's just supposed to, maybe it means something for the songwriter, but it can really easily be interpreted to however you want to take it in your own, based on your own experience. A lot of music doesn't even have lyrics, but at the same time, it creates a reaction in you, and in its own way tells a story. For instance, classical music. Obviously, there's other genres of, you know, symphonic type music that could fit into this category, but let's just take a look at symphonic music or classical music, because it's easier to, for the sake of brevity. If you study classical music, or if you watch anything on like the structure or how it works, you'll find that there's sort of like little different genres and styles that would change depending on either they were just like different styles, or you see an evolution throughout time, like certain classical music in this period from this country follows this kind of structure, where the first in a suite, so let's say, the first movement is like this, and it has this kind of a mood, and then the second movement is like this, and maybe it has a different kind of mood, and the third movement maybe isn't predefined, but it has its own thing. Well, that's just a 3-act structure. That's just like a 3-act structure of a play or a movie or any kind of story, except it's not being related to you with characters or dialogue or any kind of like concrete written ideas. It's entirely, you're interpreting it via the instrumentation, the construction of the music in terms of like chords and tempo and little like musical tricks. This section comes in now, and then they fade out, and then these like musical ideas that get iterated upon in the same way that something like a theme does in a movie is brought. Something is established at the beginning of a movie, and then it comes up in the middle, and then it comes up at the end, and it's all meant to build on this one idea. Well, in the same way, you see this all the time in music in really basic ways, like how many times do you listen to a song and there's a chorus bit, and then for the last chorus, when it's like really hype, there's like a little twist on it. There's a little twist on that chorus. That's the evolution of a musical idea. Even without words, assuming that this is all being like through the instrumentation and not like a change in the lyrics or anything, without words, that song is telling a story. You could listen to the instrumental for it and feel the progression, or hear the progression. Now, I think that is actually very similar to the way that games are appreciated. If you want to hear me go a little more in depth on this, just watch my combat video. I still basically stand by everything in that. But if you think about it, a game doesn't need writing in the same way a song doesn't need lyrics. A game can tell a story or relate a progression entirely through other means of its construction. Let's take, for instance, Sonic the Hedgehog. So you begin Sonic the Hedgehog, and you're in a very bright, colorful green hill zone. The music is really upbeat and catchy, and the overall level of challenge is not super high. And then as you progress through the game, gradually things become less natural and less colorful or bright, and it gets darker. The levels become more industrial. The challenge itself becomes greater, it becomes more difficult. There's new threats that are harder to deal with without any kind of let's say direct means of storytelling. You are understanding the progression of what's going on entirely through the level design, the aesthetics, the music, the mechanics of the game. New mechanics are introduced in stages that make it more difficult or create some kind of whatever effect that they want. I think to sum up what I mean to say, this is absolutely brilliant, and it somehow comes from the comment section of a Guardian article, but it's this comment left by Fanastril. Now that's in reply to another commenter who says, I would agree that generally speaking, games are still way off in terms of story and characters from books or TV or whatnot. I'm aware it may be because of my lack of culture, but I'm sure I'm not alone when I say that some story games I have experienced far surpass anything I've seen on movies or TV. Two that come to the top of my head are Horizon Zero Dawn and Soma. Now, this was in kind of in the middle of a discussion about some of the failings of games, and to be fair, he does say some games that left a very strong narrative impression on him. But there's this comment from Fanastril in reply, where this person, Fanastril, says, games are not broken, then no one would play them. Just stop thinking about them in terms of stories. There is a reason why films are not filmed theater. I think that is absolutely genius, and I am amazed that I've never heard anything, I've never heard that idea summed up as succinctly as that. Bravo to you, random commenter on The Guardian. But really, this is exactly what I mean. It would be silly to judge a movie in the same way that you would a play, because they're different mediums that are relating things to you in different ways. Just because it's actors on a set doesn't mean that you can analyze it in the same way, as if it's trying. It's fallacious to think that they're the same thing. Understand, and it's not entirely unreasonable for people to look at games like this, because most people's backgrounds in entertainment, if you haven't been into video games for a long time, or you don't really get them, like we've been talking about, a lot of your background is direct means of storytelling. So you see that as, this is how things tell stories. You don't, most people, even though music is so popular, I guess people don't really think about how they appreciate music. Maybe because they've also just grown up with it, and so they don't think about it, and it's not direct. Whereas it's obvious when and how films, television, theater, so on, books tell stories. I got lost in my thought process there. Oh, right. So they look at games in the same way, when that is potentially kind of another, it's a fallacious approach. I know pretty much everyone who's watching this channel probably already knows this, but I think it's good to be aware of it, and that games tell their stories in extremely different ways from other mediums, and some of the best games of all time are the ones that lean into that. There's other games with amazing writing. One of my favorite games is Final Fantasy VI. That has freaking killer characters in it, dude. And by comparison, it doesn't tell its narrative as much as something that is much more like pure gameplay. But something like gameplay is kind of akin to just the game form of like a... No, let's go with a better analogy. Level design and game structure is the game equivalent to chord progression and song structure. And the game's narrative, or writing, its story, are equivalent to lyric writing. Do you need it? Not necessarily. There's other ways to tell a story. And you just gotta expand your mind. Expand your mind. So sorry, I'm recording this over the course of like 20 minutes because this article and really the comments section gave me a big think. If you ever get into a debate or a discussion with someone who just doesn't understand the appeal of video games or thinks it's just shooting zombies, it's just being racist, then maybe watching this video will give you some kind of a response or a retort where you can civilly explain it to them. Just say it's like music. Games are more like music than they are movies. That'll probably be something like the title of this video. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Rant over. There'll be a video come this Friday or this weekend. Thanks for all the support. Love ya. Bye.